because of all this stuff going on with De'Aaron Fox. That's why I said it. As we welcome in, there he is. I see him. The one, the only, the wearing the same exact hoodie I wore through junior high and high school, and that's not an insult. I appreciate the throwback. Billabong, TNC, and Santa Cruz. Sam Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, gentlemen. We're on the phone here. I'm trying to make you bigger. How's everybody doing?
Well, there's a lot of things I could say there. I'm good. How are you doing? How are you doing, buddy?
You're a child.
I am.
100%. I'm good. I'm good. We're trying to keep up with the madness, but good to be with you guys.
Sam, I'll just start with this. You know, there's a lot of back and forth on what's been happening, and I seem to be landing on, you know, after saying that we should have traded Fox just before the Tyrese Halliburton trade once upon a time and getting killed for that. Now I'm getting killed on the other side in part because in no way is Fox perfect, and no way has he been perfect, but I really am landing on the dysfunction of the franchise is where my anger is directed, coming from. You know, we could go down the list, but we don't have enough time. But I think a lot of it still stems from the way they handled, the coaching situation with Mike Brown's exit, not the firing, but the way it was handled. And now this and everything that's led to it. And Sam, I can't help that some of this drama, not all of it, but a little bit of it at least, is stemming from the way they handled that coaching situation. They just don't seem to do themselves any favors.
First of all, buddy, you're Mr. Big Picture. Don't be angry. I mean, you know, Melissa's good. Avery, Mason, come on. You got a lot going on. This is a basketball team. You'll be okay.
By the way, Melissa and Avery both have norovirus right now, but I digress.
As I laugh at their sickness. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Anyway, yeah.
I'm going to push back because I hear you. And I think, you know, some of that stuff you're hitting on is salt in the wound for Kings fans, to be sure. But I don't know, man. I've been singing the same song with you guys for months now, like, and I'm in the minority, and I'm now that guy that's like, you know, at the top of the mountain going, I was trying to tell everybody this is where it was at, because even independent of those subplots, like the very basic stuff here is that, you know, Fox has been signaling for a while that he had serious concerns about the ceiling. Just, you know, this is the straightforward stuff, the basketball ceiling of this group. And to me, I have since kind of tried to dig deeper on that. And I think there's a conversation to be had here about like spotlight for an individual star player and like how big or small it might be in relation to the team's profile. And I think at 27 years old and going back to even 26 years old, that he started reading the room and saying, man, I'm too good to be overlooked, you know, in the way that I am. So unless they are top four in the West, like they were 2 years ago, they're only going to get maximum one all-star. They're only going to get, you know, so much attention. And really that's likely going to be going towards Domas. So that's like the less salacious stuff. Everything you're hitting on, you know, is the human component that may have played a part. They have absolutely stepped in it multiple times, I think, when it comes to De'Aaron, and left him, I think, hanging out to dry. I mean, I've written it, and the fact that, you know, even when they fired Mike, I wrote that, you know, I think they just made it worse. The writing was on the wall even more than before, and now here we are.
So the ceiling obviously hasn't changed. Maybe it can. By the deadline next week. I don't know how much that can, but do you think, Sam, then that he and his group feels like they're better off than if they do this quicker and maybe expedite this and have this done by the deadline?
I do. And I mean, the other obvious thing to highlight here, and I'll say I do, so long as they can get him where he wants to go in San Antonio, and, you know, or as another situation that he decides is amenable. I mean, you know, Miami is another one that I think is worth watching.
Yeah.
But the where was I going with that? It's the fact. Damn it, Jay! Just got sidetracked by myself. Give me the back end of your question again.
Basically, it's like, do you feel like this for De'Aaron and maybe even for the Kings needs to be done then by 1 week from
Oh,
today.
yeah, and I mean, I think what I was going to add to it is that by this point of the season, I think we're all confident saying that De'Aaron's not going to make All NBA, right? Like that's not happening. So that's the other thing here is that he was as he declined these extensions from the Kings and decided what he wanted to do. Obviously, it was not the factor, but a factor was, well, if he makes All NBA, then he could be looking at the Supermax. That's a ton more money. If the Kings are willing to go there, then maybe he finds a way to rediscover his comfort level in Sacramento. That's the other thing is that unofficially he knows that's not going to happen. It continues to push the storyline down in that direction, and I think we're seeing this is a lesser version of the Jimmy Butler situation. It's not nearly as uncomfortable, but when it reaches this kind of a point, yes, I think we're getting closer to like, all right, you should probably find a new home for him so that the rest of these guys, excuse me, in the organization can figure out what's next. And we're getting there pretty quick with the Kings.
Can they walk this back? And I don't mean can they as in can the Kings beat Oklahoma City in 2 days? I mean,
Warriors did. Anybody can.
I know. I ain't betting on it. Neither are you. I mean, honestly, you hear if you're looking for it, you hear breadcrumbs. Yesterday, he said, "Hey, is Sacramento out of the equation? Never say never." That type of thing. That could Monty McNair and co. Make the moves necessary roster wise, and could this all blow over? And I'm not asking you is it an infinite possibility? I'm saying, do you see that as a legitimate possibility to throw into the hat?
Before I answered, I've read Chris Biederman's stuff in the B, which was good. Credit to him for trying to get the right answers here. But was there video of De'Aaron addressing this stuff?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it either. I was looking for the video or audio. Jason?
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah. Well, I was at least, I know Kings fans don't want to hear it. From a media standpoint, I was actually like, man, give De'Aaron some love. Like, you guys don't typically address this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of like the fact that he actually faced the music a little bit. And try to give fans and the public some answers because he did address specific questions. No, I don't think they can walk it back. I again, like the phrases put to me for a long time now. It's the writing is all on the wall. It's the general idea that like people can be mad about it all they want. He, I don't know what number you put on it. He sees himself as I'm just going to like a top 15 player, and wants to get himself to a situation, where that kind of what he brings to the table can be elevated. I mean, early this season, and I know this is a simplistic way of framing it, but like he was legitimately, boasting this similar, if not the same stat line as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and doing it on both ends. And the difference was you did not have a loaded, deep, versatile, balanced roster in Sacramento like Oklahoma City does. So, no, I don't see a walk back. I see somebody who has decided, and that's not really with any malice. I think, you talk to people about De'Aaron. I think I've said this on the show before. It's like somebody used the word gentleman, that he's never going to walk into Monty McNair's office and flip a table over. He's not going to beat Jimmy Butler, but he obviously, is kind of standing on the way he sees this situation.
Talking with Sam Amick here from The Athletic, of course, brought to you by our friends at Jiffy Lube. So, Sam, just from recent history, we had, Dame Lillard very openly, seemingly wanted to go to Miami, ends up in a deal with Milwaukee. At least we hear San Antonio as De'Aaron's preferred destination. I'm sure the two parties could make it work, but would that be of best interest for the Kings? What other teams, if any, could the Kings be working with here? You mentioned Miami, but I'm sure there's several people that would be interested if the Kings want to explore this and move De'Aaron. Yeah,
I mean, if the Kings, really want to get away from uncomfortableness and dysfunction, I think Jimmy Butler's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
And I'm half kidding. We'll see what happens here. I mean, the Spurs. It's interesting. If you go back, this is a part of my job that drives me crazy because we write about some of the behind the scenes stuff, but it's like, man, we only get like 3%, If you go back to the summertime when the Kings did the Derozan deal, the sign and trade, you know, I look at that now and I find it fascinating because you have recent history where the Kings and Spurs were like really positive, capable partners. You know what I mean? And now you have a situation where, like, I think the dynamic between those two organizations is pretty healthy. And so the question is, where is that sweet spot where the Kings can extract enough from the Spurs, who have a very robust, you know, cupboard of draft assets and obviously a good amount of good young players, to where they could immediately pivot to their fans and say, hey, we're okay. We're still competing. You know, we're going to keep building from here. We're going to take these draft picks and move forward. You know, I mean, I've seen some of the speculation about possible structure of deals where, you know, people who know what they're talking about are talking about 3-4 firsts, you know. So if you get a good enough haul from San Antonio, because for them, if they truly believe that De'Aaron is kind of the way forward with Victor Wembanyama, then then you're in a good negotiating position, because that choice for the Spurs is monumental. Like the guy to put next to that guy, you know, like they have to get that right. And if their level of motivation is indeed, you know, as much as it seems, then I think, you know, I can see a pathway to the Spurs being the way to go, even if some people might not want to put De'Aaron where he wants to be.
Sam Amick joining us. Sam, any insight, and we'll forgive you if you don't, of course, but I got to ask, it's not just De'Aaron Fox, it's also the other players. And granted, they lost in Philly yesterday after finally getting a road win, but that was over Brooklyn. They've lost 3 or 4 on this road trip. We joked about it. Doesn't get any easier against Oklahoma City. And then they have Minnesota before they come back home. Are you hearing anything about other players, their camps, people either upset with Fox, the situation, the franchise in general? What's the temperature there?
Yeah, I don't think it's great. You know, I have talked to some people about the locker room component and how I think there is some frustration and confusion, because we sometimes underestimate the degree to which, on the one hand, these players are as close to it as anybody. On the other hand, you know, they're trying to compete. They're trying to get up in the morning and get their treatment and get their sleep, get their rest, talk to their people, play ball, you know, go to bed, wash, rinse, and repeat. They're not necessarily trying to, you know, sit down with their teammate and find out, hey, why is there stuff in the media? Why is this happening now? But I do think those questions are now being asked, like, you know, within their different camps. And because at face value, if you're one of De'Aaron's teammates, you're going to look at it and go, wait, man, like we just won like 9 out of 11 or whatever it is. Like, why did this not calm the situation down? And, you know, it's funny, last week, we're all guilty of looking, you know, on social media. So you could get 100 positive notes, you ignore them. If you get one negative, you look at it, right? So, Dave, we had a listener on one of your threads who was killing me for being a Kings hater. And it's like, because I wasn't, you know, throwing the parade for them when they won a few games. And it just, that little stretch of success, I knew all the way through, just had absolutely no bearing on De'Aaron's big picture perspective. Like none. Like you have to win a first round playoff series and go from there. And right now they're still fighting to get in the playoffs. So there's like this disconnect between, I think, the way he sees it and the way, you know, what his calculus is, and the more day-to-day reality of his teammates, where, you know, I think they were hoping things were just going to go in a more positive direction. But those two things right now are pretty tough to reconcile.
Again, Sam Amick, brought to you by all your Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Sam, you kind of felt like the writing, you know, you said the writing's on the wall. This feels like this is where this is going. If they don't get this done in a week, is this as simple as revisiting it in the off season? Kind of even in between Dave's question, like, is this a chance to pair it and patch it together? Or is this, like you kind of referred to earlier, like you really think this is happening within the next 7 days?
I mean, I'll qualify that a little bit. Like, you know, I said earlier, like De'Aaron's not Jimmy. If they didn't get a deal done, I have, you know, very high confidence that De'Aaron goes back out there and plays good basketball and does his job. He's not going to, you know, again, throw tantrums. He's not going to be unprofessional. So the other part of that, that's probably worth highlighting too, and I don't have total clarity on this, but enough to share it, is like for the fans or even his teammates that are mad, saying, why you got to, raise your hand right now and make it about you right now. Well, the sequence of events here is interesting and kind of worth underscoring, because there's some pretty strong indications that, like, the way this really went down was that because of all the signaling that De'Aaron and his camp have been giving to the Kings about the fact that he's very, very, very unlikely to sign the extension this summer, the Kings went to De'Aaron and his camp with a specific situation regarding a team that was calling about him, to essentially, get his read of that particular situation. But the part where that is a challenge is that once you break that seal, then you kind of you open that door, then it becomes, well, if this is what we're doing, if this is the new norm, we're going to have routine conversations about which teams are calling. That's a choice on the Kings' part. They could have continued to say, we're not talking about De'Aaron Fox. Thank you anyways. Do you have interest in any other players? They didn't do that. I don't blame them for not doing that, because honestly, there is a really good argument to be made that you should do this right now. But, I don't think it's as simple as, he decided 2 days ago, hey, why don't you let the media know that I'm ready to go.
And Sam, push back again, but in my continuous defense of De'Aaron, and again, I get there's two sides to this, but you've got a guy who is 30 games away, or 29 now, I think, away from playing the most games in town, as Sam Amick for you on YouTube is relocating, taking a kid to school. Is that what's happening?
That is what's happening. We are going to multitask.
All right. So Sam Amick Nostril Cam, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube, where you can get oil changes and more. So I see a guy who is about to break the record for most games played in Sacramento, for a franchise that made one playoff series and one play-in series, or should I say game, two play-in games technically, who has repeatedly said behind the scenes, and then, it came out, I need to see this organization is stable. I need to see we're on the right track to win a championship. I'm about to enter my prime. The max deal or whatever deal I'm about to sign is going to be the deal that I sign in my prime, and will take me through my prime. I just want to win ball games. Am I wrong in saying De'Aaron Fox ultimately, in his head, it sounds like he was perfectly fine, and if not wanting to sign in Sacramento, and asked them to do some pretty basic things like make moves and improve the roster, and they have not done that. As a matter of fact, they've gone from the 3 seed to the play-in to 2 games over 500 and a fired coach, and no GM or owner press conference afterwards, and he had to fend for himself along with the other players. I'm having a really hard time thinking that the Kings made this mess. Yeah, we got you.
No, that's fair. I think that the reality is, even, like I was told all the way along, there's not a move that is going to fix this. Now if they went out and got Giannis,
right,
then that's a different story. So, but your point, right, your point is still fair, that if they would have shocked the world, like, here's a good example. Like, the ultimate example is the Lakers go out and get Pau Gasol. Kobe Bryant's finally okay. Yeah, something, and still around. Obviously, it's not happening.
Sam's pulling out of his garage, I think. So we're having what you're experiencing right now, radio listeners, I'm almost certain, is Sam's, and that's why we're getting the reverb, is Sam's, it's changing from his car to his, from his internet at home to his internet in the car is what's happening. Also, we're getting a bunch of reverb. It's not good. So we're getting a bunch of reverb.
Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3.
We got you.
You guys got me.
Yeah, but why are we getting this reverb?
Why
are we getting this reverb?
All right, that's bad.
Yeah, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna reconnect with Sam here. hopefully we'll try to reconnect with. Actually, where are we here? Because that would be an amazing end to the interview, Jason. We have 4 minutes left. We could get him. Chris, if you want to take a jab at getting him back, that would be neato. Neato. Also, looks like in the meantime, DeMar DeRozan has spoken. Alan Stiles has tweeted out this video. We'll play you the sound in the next segment. But the quote here, the money quote here is DeMar DeRozan saying, "I'm not trying to play another 5 years. I'm trying to maximize the opportunity we have now to play with a great team." And that was him speaking to his future with the Kings if De'Aaron Fox is traded. I don't even know how the hell to take that.
Yeah, I don't either. I think we need to. We'll hear that. I'm interested in that audio a little later.
Sam, are you okay? Are you back with us, friend?
Yeah, I think I've got you. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yep.
Yes. I could also see your little phone holder was not screwed in correctly, so we kept falling to the wayside. That's fine. That being said, Sam, what did you think about everything I asked you that you probably didn't hear?
Yeah, that's all right. Well, let's try to pull off a strong finish. I mean, give me the gist of it real quick.
Basically, I feel like the Kings franchise has made their own bed here, and that had they De'Aaron Fox wanted some, I think, very fair things. They have not held up that end of the bargain, and he doesn't want to spend the rest of his prime struggling to make the first round in Sacramento, although ultimately he'd love to win a championship in Sacramento. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's all very fair. I think 100%. And I think, they might have underestimated like all the positivity that came with breaking the playoff drought, on the back end of that. You got to realize that, for these young players, like just because your organization has a historically bad context, doesn't mean they're going to stay happy forever with just having gone to the first round of the playoffs, and if more specifically, and maybe I'll be proven wrong one day, the one subplot that I will always be confused by is I understand that Mike Brown was being real hard on players in the public, and there were reasons to think that some of this was Mike Brown's fault. But the Fox okay the Fuck, am I still here?
There you go, Sam. Finish. You were talking about Mike Brown. I think we got you back.
Fox was okay with the pressure Mike was putting on him. They overreacted to the fact that a veteran coach was deciding to choose violence with his players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to do that at a time when he knew it was sensitive to, and then to let people say that it was his doing, that just didn't help. And then to think that, well, we slid Doug in there and we won a few games, like De'Aaron's fine, right? No, that's not the case. He's posting pictures about going to dinner with Mike Brown. He's posting pictures of Luke Laux, the assistant coach, who he's incredibly close with, and who, I bet my mortgage is not going to be with the team next year because he's a Mike Brown guy, and I think De'Aaron knows these dynamics, and he sees people who he kind of rocked with, getting sideways with the organization along the way. I think that stuff didn't help.
That's Sam Amick, and I know we got a break. Sam, last thing, because you kind of touched on it, and I want to be very careful in this question here. There has been persistent chatter that before Mike was let go, that he was asked to let go of a coach or a couple of coaches. We talked about that before. I haven't asked you that in a couple weeks, but have we gotten any more clarity on that at all?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate it. Well, whatever. That's perfect answer. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll probably leave that one alone for now. But
all right. Well, we appreciate you. Go do what you got to do, buddy. And we appreciate you. And of course, should anything break or whatever, we'll be back with you. Thank you, Sam. That's Sam Amick.
Yes.
I think
All
new
right.
rule when Sam has to leave to go do something, which look, he's a dad, and he's doing his
Yep.
stuff, and I think we got to switch to phone. I think asking StreamYard to operate that at the end was a little it was a little too much for it to bear.
We have a lot of moving parts. We're in different locations. Sam's in a different location. So yeah, definitely. Hey, Dave, though, as we go to break, we can help out our fellow listeners. How about coming up Friday through Sunday, the PBR Unleash the Beast tour is back in the Golden One Center. And right now we're looking for caller number 3 to score a pair of tickets to witness PBR at Golden One Center this Sunday, February 2nd. So again, call in now at 1-800-920-1140 or 916-339-1140.
Jason, Chris, as we go to break, sorry, I'm not there, so I just want to know which way to tease. I know we have 4 down territory scheduled. Do we have the ability to flip-flop the next 2 segments, or do we need to keep 4 down next?
We could do whatever we'd like.
Okay, hey, just asking. All right, because I don't want to tease this Derozan stuff and not get
we
right
can play
to it.
that. Yeah, we can do both.
Okay, well, we'll take a break. When we come back, DeMar DeRozan speaks. We're going to try to figure out between the lines or not what he said, what it means. We'll get to all that right after this.
Saturday night, Kings and Thunder.